I will upload this to YouTube, and I will make sure that you have a link to that video. All right. So if you are on a device, like if you're on your phone, then you can just watch along. But if you're on a Chromebook or a computer, you can open up a new tab. So just click your plus sign there. And to get to Google Classroom, it's really simple. It's just classroom.google.com, just like that, and press enter. When mine loads, you're going to see a ton of Google Classrooms. Yours will not look this crazy. Yours will only have like the classrooms that maybe you've been invited to, or the classrooms that you've used in the past. So if yours is blank, don't worry. Don't worry about that at all. If you have one here that says so-and-so hasn't, well, it doesn't say has invited you, but if it says join or decline, that means that someone has invited you to the classroom. That will show up that way if they try to add you as a student, as someone learning in that classroom, or if they're trying to add you as a co-teacher. If you have some like this down here at the bottom that don't have join, that means that you're already a part of that classroom. Okay? So to start and to create your own classroom, you want to click this plus sign. Teachers have two different options here. You can't see my screen? Can anyone see my screen right now?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Stacy, try reloading your page and seeing if it will fix itself. Like try reloading your Google Meet and come back in. Maybe it's just frozen or something on something different.
Hey, Stella, I had to change on my settings, like those three little dots, Miss Ludicky. If you go down to the right-hand corner and hit those those little dots, you can change the layout to show like spotlight. And since Stella's presenting, like her screen becomes the biggest one.
Stacy, let us know if that helps. Thank you so much, Cassie, for that. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out. We'll get it.
It fixed it. It reloaded it. It was stuck on your picture of you. So we're good.
Oh, I got you. I got you. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So whenever we click the plus sign, teachers have two options. We have the join class option and we have the create class option. On that, you want if you're trying to join a class, like a teacher or a PD presenter is giving you a class code to put in, you'll click that one. Usually, as educators, we want to create our own class so we can give it to students. When a student clicks this plus sign, they only have one option. They only have join class. The reason why is because some of them were really creative and they were making Google Classrooms that looked identical to what their teachers had, and they were chatting in there. So, yes, students will only have one option, but the teachers will all have two. So go ahead and click Create Class if you want to work along with us. And if not, you're good. So when I click Create Class, it opens up this prompt. And inside of this prompt, that's where I'm going to name my class. I want to name it something that if a child is at home with their parent, the parent will have easy access to see whose class that is. This is really important for grade levels that switch teachers. It's also really important for like your enrichment classes. So if I was doing this, I'd say something like Miss Pollard's science class. And really the only one that's required is the top one. You don't have to put anything in these bottom ones, it'll be fine. But I always like to go down here and put my year too, just in case I ever forget to archive a class at the end of the school year. A parent will know like that's no longer my child's teacher. So once you have that filled out exactly the way that you want, you can click create and it will do its magic. It takes probably 10, 20 seconds. It feels a lot longer sometimes, especially during PD, after you click that create button. Perfect. When you first click create, it will automatically take you into that classroom. If you want to get back to that home screen, you can just click these 3 lines right here in the top left-hand corner and click classes, and that's going to take you back to all of the classes that you teach or are enrolled in. And you can add more than one class. Like if you teach high school or middle school, or somebody like you don't have a set group of kids in your class every day, I highly recommend making a Google Classroom for each class that you teach. If you teach primary and you want to put math, language arts, science, and social studies and everything else in one, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you teach 120 kids in one day, it's just going to be easier for you on grading if you have a Google Classroom for each class. So much easier. So when you are back at Google Classroom and you want to get to one of your classes, if you click down here in the white spot, it won't open that class up. You have to actually click on the title of that class in order to get in there. And up here at the top, I told you that it was broken into 4 different sections: stream, classwork, people, and grades. I like to think of this kind of like a little folder or a composition notebook with different tabs in there. Maybe my favorite, the 5-star notebook. That way you can filter through your Google Classroom just by clicking and going from one section to the next. We're going to start off by talking about the stream. My favorite way to describe the stream is this is kind of like your Facebook stream. It's where you and the students are going to be able to see everything going on in the class. It's just a little bit more difficult to organize than that classwork page. So the stream is where you can go and you can make announcements to your class. Like down here at the bottom, when I scrolled underneath my class header, I can type in a little note here for my students. I can also attach certain documents here. When I think about this, I wouldn't really want to attach anything that I expect the students to make a copy of and edit, kind of like what we do with that agenda. I think more so like a syllabus, or hey, here's a video for you to watch to help you with upcoming assignments, or something like that. Something that's for the whole class and not really just for an individual student or individual student. So to add attachments, you click this little paper clip, and you have 4 different options. You can add directly from Google Drive. You can add a link. Let's say that it's a link to Zern or to Quizzes or something like that. You can add that directly into there. You can add a file. So if it's a PDF or something similar saved to your computer, you can click that. Or you can add a YouTube video. I'm going to go ahead and click Drive. And I'm just going to attach something directly from my Google Drive. So it's going to load. Here's a copy of all of my recent things. I can search too. But when I find the one that I want to attach to that, I'm just going to click it. And then I'm going to click Insert. It will automatically have that put into my classroom. I can even add, please read the agenda, or whatever I need to put. I can add more than one thing too. It doesn't just have to be limited to that one agenda. I could also click the add button and add something else. I can add something else from my Google Drive or any of these other links. If I click YouTube video, it pulls up this little prompt and I can do a search for a specific YouTube video. Like maybe I want to look up a video about pandas. Maybe we're learning about different types of organisms and what they eat. So let's do this one, and we'll click Add, and it will automatically attach that to that announcement. The only thing that to be cautious of when you're using a YouTube video, make sure that you as the teacher click the title of that video first, and make sure, pause, go to YouTube. So you can just click down here on YouTube and make sure that you approve that video for Franklin County students, or else students are going to get, sorry, this video is not approved for FCS students. So just scroll underneath the video and click approve, and that'll get it added on there. Okay. If you teach multiple classes at one point in time, so let's say that I had 4 sections of 6th grade science, I could click underneath 4, and I could have this added directly to all of my classes with one click. So let's say that I want to post it in this class, and in that class, and maybe this one. I can then click post, and it will automatically send that to all of the classes that I selected. Now, you can also do an announcement and assign it only to specific students within a class. So to do that, I'm going to go to a class that actually has students so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's say that I wanted to send an announcement, and I'll only want it to go to the students named, uncheck all students. I only want it to go to Miss Adams, Miss Atkins, and Mr. Durr. I can pick however many that I want. This is really good if you have certain kids missing an assignment, or you just need to get some reteach materials to them, then you can do that. And you have all of those same options that you had before. You also have, beside of post, that little drop-down menu to where you can schedule these to show up at a certain time, which is really handy if you're working like 11 o'clock at night and you don't want the students to see it until 8 o'clock in the morning, or for whatever reason. You can post, or you can save it as a draft. Okay, so I'm not going to post that because I don't want to freak those teachers out thinking like, what is she doing? But that's how the stream works. And everything that you post at the bottom will be moved, or sorry, every time you post something up here, everything else will be moved towards the bottom. If you ever want to make sure that one of your posts is at the top, you can click these 3 dots, and you can click move to top, or edit, or delete, or you can copy that link and send it into wherever you want to give your students a link to. So that's pretty much it for the stream right now. Do you all have any questions about the stream so far? Rebecca, they can. But if you're only adding students, so for everybody that's listening, Rebecca's question is, can students tell what students are in the class with them? Like for special education, do we need to create a classroom for each child? I wouldn't say that you need to create a classroom for each child. I just would be very careful not to add any parents to that. Emily, I'm going to get to that in just a second. The answer is yes, students can post on the stream, but we can turn that off. Alicia, it's different for each school, unfortunately. I am going to be making some resources and sending out to the principals so they can share out with their teachers about showing littles how to use Google Classroom, but it really is different for each school and the expectations that the principals have. You all are doing a great job of asking those questions. If you need to ask a question, just a quick reminder, you can put that directly into the chat button by clicking this bubble and typing your question in on this little chat box here. Or you can hop on the microphone. Don't hop onto your microphone, that might hurt, but you know what I mean. Okay, so going back to Google Classroom. Oh, I got one more question. So for special education, only add students, not parents. I would only add students to any Google Classroom for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, when you click on the People tab, Let me just go to a class that's got people in it. When you click on the people tab, it's weird to say, you're going to see a list of all of your classmates directly in there. The students will be able to see it, and they'll be able to see the teachers as well. And technically, that's not a huge thing because you're not going to be able to see, like a student will not be able to see everybody else's work. They'll just be able to see their names. So it's not really that big of a deal that parents are going to be in there. Like, I wouldn't do it. But the big reason why I wouldn't do it is because it's going to make grading a complete nightmare for you if you do that. You're going to have to look through your roster and determine like why you have 15 assignments missing, and then determine which of those are students and which of those. Taylor, yes, they do. And Jimmy's working on that with his tech guys right now. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move to the classwork part. The classwork is where all of the magic happens. This is where you go to give assignments to your students. So let me go back to my classroom here. My button in this classroom is purple. It really just matches the theme. So if you get your Google Classroom and your button is red or orange or something else, we can talk about how to change that in a bit. But to get started on this page, you just click the Create button, and you will have a variety of things that you can pick from. You have assignment, quiz assignment, question, material, reuse, post, and topic. We're going to start off with just the assignment. When you click assignment, it pulls up this window, and you're going to have the opportunity to go in and edit all of these things. So you want to give your assignment a title. I recommend starting every assignment with a number. The reason why, if you have a student that's absent from class, you can say, hey, you missed assignment number 1 yesterday. Instead of having to try to remember what exactly you named that assignment, you'll just be able to quickly recall a number. So that's very handy regardless of which class that you teach, like what grade level. Also, if you have a virtual learner and you can send out your notes and say, hey, this is the assignment number. All of your details and informations are going to be in Google Classroom, and it goes along with this number. It just makes it easier. And it will automatically, whenever you put your grades into Infinite Campus, you'll be able to see that number there as well. And I have more to say about Infinite Campus. I'm not going to jump ahead. So give it a title. And then here on instruction. This is something to think about for virtual learning, because we're going to have some type of virtual learners within our classes. I don't know like what that's going to look like or anything like that, but I do say that we're going to have some type of, there'll probably be NTI days, whether it be pandemic related or weather related. So in the instructions box, if you ever have those, it wouldn't hurt to put a parent corner here, because if the parent is looking at Google Classroom with their child, or sorry, don't use parent, use guardian. I'm trying to get better at that. Guardian. So the guardians can read those directions with their child and be able to know exactly what to do. That's going to be handy regardless of which grade, because you could also put a YouTube video link here or a video to a Screencastify that you've created or whatever directly beside of that, just to kind of give them some help. And then you can also type in directions for students underneath there as well. Over here or under here, you have that same button that you saw on the stream. You have add, and those work exactly the same as they did in the stream. The only thing that's different is if you attach something from Google Drive. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to find a document. It could be a Google slide or really anything inside of your Google Drive. Find it, click Insert, and you're going to have the ability to let students only see that file, or every student in the class can edit the same file, which there's some purposes for that, but not a lot. Save yourself some headache and don't do that at the beginning. But you also have this make a copy for each student. If you select that and you have 32 kids in your classroom, well, that might not be realistic this year, but whenever you have however many students that are enrolled in that Google Classroom, it's going to automatically make a copy for them. Not only will it automatically make a copy for them, but it will put their name directly in front of whatever attachment that you have. So mine would say Stella Pollard, copy of Google Classroom. That's magical within itself, because there goes that no-name wall that you have to hang up all of the no-name papers on. So I love that it does that. You also have Create. So if you want to create any of these things on the fly while you're fixing to assign, you can click any of these. So I'm just going to click Slides, and it's going to automatically open up a Google Slides presentation for you as the teacher to edit. And then directly underneath there, you're going to have all of those same options as well. I do not do that very often. I usually like to go to my Google Drive and create something there to where it's organized in a folder and I can find it and then attach it like with this button. But if you're the type of person that likes to create directly in Google Classroom, that button and those features are phenomenal. Anything that you make a change to will automatically save. And when you post this to your students, it's going to give them that copy, okay, or view file. One thing that I do need to add, whenever you have make a copy for each student selected, if you go in and change something after you post this, so like you go in and add a new slide to a Google Slide, those copies will not have your new updates. So you would have to repost the assignment if you did that, which can be quite, it's not horrible because you'll just go in and delete the assignment and then just attach the new one, but it can be a nightmare if students have already started working. So make sure that you are aware of that. Okay, so over here to the side, you have some other options. Looks kind of similar from Stream. You have 4. You can select multiple classes, just like we did a while ago. You can click all students and assign only to specific students. So that's perfect for those modifications or small groups. If you have some GT kids in your class and you need to make sure that they're getting their GT assignment or their modifications to help with their criteria, then you can just go in and select them. Same thing for IEPs to make sure that you're meeting those. And it just really makes it easier to get those to those little small groups of kids. Only the people who are checked will be able to see that assignment. So if you have a modified assignment, you don't have to worry about Billy over here knowing that Stella got a different assignment than him. It's very clean. It's very private. So only the people that it's assigned to will see it. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that Infinite Campus part. So KDE has purchased Campus Learning, which means that Google Classroom and Infinite Campus can talk together. They're going to talk to one another. Google Classroom can automatically send assignments that you grade directly into Infinite Campus with the click of a button. It's just not there for me for a couple of reasons. One, it hasn't been released yet because KD is still ironing out the kinks. 2, I don't have an Infinite Campus gradebook. My Infinite Campus looks different than a teacher's, but there are some trainings coming up. I'm going to share that back out with principals again because I think I sent it on a day that I sent, or I didn't send, but we had a lot of emails coming from the district, and it kind of got buried in inboxes and stuff because I know that that day I was like, yep, that was a horrible day to send that. But if you are interested, reach out to me or your STC at your school. Librarian is usually who that is, and then we'll get you some training on that if you're interested. So it's going to be really easy. I say that in order to say, make sure that if you are letting your Google Classroom talk directly to your Infinite Campus, to make your points be whatever you want it to be. You don't want something like introductions to be worth 100 points, or I wouldn't from personal preference. Maybe I would want that assignment to be worth 5. But just be aware that that can happen. If you give your assignments due dates, it's going to be perfect because it's going to, one, not only mark these assignments as late if a student turns it in past that due date, but it's also going to automatically put it on the student calendar from Google Classroom, which I talk about in Google Classroom for the Semi-Pro. If you're interested in that, I highly recommend it. I will also talk about that when I create a Google Classroom tutorial for middle and high school students. Elementary students, I think intermediate could handle it, but for third down, I probably wouldn't even show the calendar just because little brains. But if you give it a due date, it's going to post it automatically on the calendar, and you can give it a time. That's optional. Now, my favorite part is the topic. Topic is how you can organize your Google Classroom classwork page. It kind of puts these in little folders, and students will be able to see their assignments easier. So I'm going to go ahead and create one for this. And I talk about the rubric and this one more in the Google Classroom for Legend. If those sound interesting to you, make sure that you check those videos out. So after I have that all organized the way that I want, I have that same drop-down menu. I'm going to go ahead and click Assign. When I do that, it's going to post it on the classwork page. And notice that over here, I have my topics. Let me go to a classroom that has more topics in it so I can show you why that's so magical. So let's pretend that I've had a whole semester of topics or assignments. These topics would be much longer, like way longer. If a student was studying for a midterm or end of year exam or whatever, they can click on these and it automatically will take them only to the assignments that have that topic. So that's a great example for middle and high. What about for elementary? If you teach primary or you teach the same group of kids all day, meaning you have them for every content, then you can go to the topics and make them be week 1, week 2, so they can easily see those. Or you can even make them be math, language arts, science, social studies. Or if you teach primary or you are enrichment at an elementary school, I would recommend you being a co-teacher in your teacher's classes, their homeroom classes, and you having a topic over here for like art, PE, or whatever it is that you teach, so students can easily access those. Jamie asked a really good question. Thoughts on due dates for students who get extended time? Jamie, you can go in and individually extend the due date for certain kids. But for me, what I would do as a teacher and what I did in the classroom, I knew the students that I had that extended time. So I pulled them to the side and I was like, hey, listen, I'm posting this assignment for everybody, but you know that you get extended time. you know that you get two extra days or double time or whatever, please don't worry when it says marked late. So as a teacher, I always just, was very transparent with my students that needed those accommodations. Does that make sense, Jamie? Is that ethical?
Hey, Stella, well, I guess what I was thinking is if we use this, I'm kind of thinking about anything, maybe I'm mixing them up, but if we use it as a documentation tool as well, you know what I mean, to demonstrate we did offer that time, that's the reason I was asking if it'd be then documented.
I got you.
That makes sense.
And
we may not be able to.
So there is a way whenever you go into an assignment to make a comment. So like if you had somebody turn it in late, it's going to say over here, turn in late underneath that score. So as the teacher, I could go in and make a private comment. So I'm going to click on Kelly's name here and say extended time was granted or something in that private comment. And only that student will be able to see it. The only other workaround would be going in and assigning every assignment to a child, like individually, with that drop down menu and checking those kids.
No, I appreciate that. I think that's a good, that works. Thank you.
The private comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Emily says, can changes be made after they are assigned? Yes, they can. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Stacey, I'm going to also show you how to turn off notifications. All right. So if you want to edit an assignment after it's been posted, let me go back to my Classwork page here. Go to that assignment, click the three dots, and click edit, and you can edit that. But like I said before, if it is a copy, like make a copy for all students, it's going to, it will not make that copy edit. It will not edit the copies. That's what I'm trying to get at. It will automatically update for all students if you make those changes. Okay, so yeah, we talked about how to create that assignment. After we click assign, it will automatically post it. And we talked about the topics. I talk about the rest of these in the semi-pro, but I'm going to go through them really quick because we got 20 minutes left in the session, and I want to make sure that I touch bases on how to grade things in Google Classroom and how to add kids. So the quiz assignment works exactly like the regular assignment, except it will automatically include a Google form. You can delete that form and go in and add on Google Drive, like attach a different form that you already have made. If you turn on locked mode on Chromebooks, that works as long as the students are on a school-issued device, but it kind of hangs up the Google Forms sometimes, and students get kind of like in a stuck mode on the computer, and it won't go forward. I don't know if Google worked on that some this summer, and maybe the glitches are kind of gone, but just be aware that it was kind of glitchy last year. If you have this turned on and students take it on a personal device or on a desktop at a school or whatever, then it will not be on lockdown mode. And lockdown mode just means that students cannot open any other tabs. They'll only be able to see what's on that Google form. Do turn on grade importing because that's going to automatically pull those scores from Google Form into your Google Classroom, and you're going to be able to easily see who's turned it in and how they've done just from a quick glance. I talk more about that in the semi-pro and the legend if you're interested in those. The rest of this looks exactly the same. Also under Create, you have the ability to ask a question. Asking a question will allow you to type your question, type instructions. All of this looks the same except for that bottom part. You can have it to where you can have this be a short answer question or a multiple choice. Students have to submit their answers before they can see anybody else's response. So short answer questions would require that text. Multiple choice questions would show a summary chart, like a bar graph or a pie chart of how well the student, or not really how well, but the answers that the student selected. So like if I went up here and I put in a question, and then down here I could come in and I can put in different options. It's not really going to grade this for you because that's kind of what Google Forms is for, but it's great for that end of discussion question. So you can put like, how are you feeling about today's content, levels 1 through 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they just have that quick exit summary. And then if you leave it as multiple choice, if you want students to see that bar graph, make sure that you keep that box checked. If it's short answer, make sure that you look at these options. Either students can reply to each other or not, and then you can turn on the ability for students to edit their answers as well. And then the rest of this up here looks the same as it does for the other options. And now notice that I didn't post that one to my class, but I clicked off of it. So if you're working and you forget to save, it saves things automatically. Students will not be able to see drafts up here, but if you ever have one, you're like, oh, I want to go back and edit that, you can click on it and you can click edit, or you can click the 3 dots and click edit there as well, or delete. Okay, so material is kind of just like the assignment part, but instead of being able to make an attachment for each kid, it's a good place for like your syllabus, something like that. One of my favorite things though, let's say that I have a class that's a little bit ahead of my 3rd period class, and I want to reuse posts from last week's 2nd period class because I had to do some reteaching. If I click create, I can go down here to reuse posts and click on that, and it's going to pull up all of my Google Classrooms. So it automatically went to my level 2. I can click the back button and find like my 2nd period class, and I can use I can reuse that same assignment by clicking on it and clicking reuse. And I will be able to edit before I send that out to my kids. So it's just going to really pull up that shell of the assignment. So there it is. And that way I won't have to redo all the things that I've already done. All of my attachments that I made are already there, as well as like all of the other information. That was really fast, but we got through all of that. You can click topic and make up a new topic if you want to. Okay, so that was really quick. If you have questions, I'm going to stick around after the 3:30 mark to answer those, but I promise I will get you answers. So next, one of the things that really freak people out is, how do I grade this stuff? How do I see who's turned stuff in? How do I see who has not turned it in, and how do I get their grades back? So on that classwork page, when you find an assignment that you want to grade, you're just going to click on it, and it's going to automatically say 24, or however many students you have turned it in, and you'll be able to click on those, and it will tell you who those people are. If you want to see who's not turned it in, it calls those assigned. If it's past a due date, it's going to say missing. So you can click on that number and you can see who's not turned it in. But if you go to the turned in part and you want to see, let's say that I want to see Kelly's assignment here. I can click on her name and it's going to automatically pull up those attachments or whatever she has added to it. If there's stuff added, I can also go over here to the side and give it a grade. And I can add private comments here like, hey, great job, or make sure that you check your grammar or whatever it is. And once I have left my feedback and I've graded, I can return that to her, or I can return multiple submissions. Like if she has multiple things, I can see all of those multiple chances that she's taken. And when I go on to the next kid, I don't have to close this out. I can just use these arrows to go on to the next child and grade their content directly from there. I also have a drop-down menu to where I can see all of those. I talk a lot more about how to grade stuff in the semi-pro, but I wanted to make sure that you did know that there is a grading shell there, and it's really user-friendly. Like, you don't have to close things out to get back into it. Okay. So that brings us to a close on the classwork part. On people, we talked about this one a little bit, but if you want to add a co-teacher, like your content partner or somebody that co-teaches with you or whomever, you can click this little person button here beside of teachers, and you just type in their email address. So if I want to type in Jimmy's name, I can type in his name and click invite, and it will automatically send him an email saying, hey, Stella's added you to be a co-teacher in this class, and he has to approve it. If you want to add students, you can click the little plus sign here, and you can individually type in their names, which sounds like a nightmare, or you can you can go to the stream, and there's a class code. You present this class code. You can make it bigger. You can make it even bigger if you want. You present this class code or give it to your students, and they will go to classroom.google.com, and they will go and type in that code. So they'll just type it in, and it will automatically enroll them. But if you do the Infinite Campus integration that KDE has purchased, it will automatically pull your rosters directly in there for you. So if you get a new student next week and they're on your Infinite Campus, at midnight the night after he enrolls, or she, it will automatically have them in your class, but you can always give them that class code as well. On the semi-pro, I talk about how to invite guardians, which is a super handy tool. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you check out that on-demand video. And then finally, we have this gradebook section. The gradebook section is where you can go in and you can see the grades for every single assignment that you have given to your kiddos. So for instance, if it loads, you can scroll through here and you can see who's missing work at just a quick glance. And you can also just type in here and leave them a grade automatically on that section. We talk a lot about that in the semi-pro and the legend. So if you're interested in those, I do have the semi-pro linked inside of that agenda, and it's an on-demand session, meaning you can do that whenever you want. So the last thing that I want to make sure that I hit on, if you do get a lot of notifications inside of Google Classroom, because every time you post an assignment, you're going to get an email. And every time a student turns in a work, you could get an email unless you turn those notifications off. It's a nightmare to not have them off. I'm just going to be honest, because your email will just blow up. Your phone will just die. So to do that, you click on this little cogwheel right here. Oh, sorry, wrong cogwheel. There's two. To do that, you click on your menu right here, and you scroll down to the bottom of that list, and you find this cogwheel. Those are your settings for all of Google Classroom and not just the Google Classroom that you're working on at that time. And you'll scroll down to where it says notifications. And if this button is turned on, You can just slide it off and you won't get any notifications from Google Classroom. If it's slid on, you can go through here and you can turn on only the notifications that you want. And there are a few. So you can just go through there. And really, it's just a preference on what you want to see and what you don't. As a teacher, I always left on resubmissions of work and late submissions of work. But those were really the only two that I found to be super helpful to get emails about. All right, so we went over a ton of information, and I do want to answer your all's questions, but I also want to be respectful of the time of the people that are here. So I'm going to post the sign-in sheet as well as my anonymous feedback form. The sign-in sheet is how you're going to get your your PD credit. I turn in the PD credit directly to central office, so you will not get a certificate or anything like that. But if you fill it out, then your hours will be documented. I also email out a recording of the session to participants within a day or two after we went over or after the video is loaded. So you can always go back and watch that too. So if you don't get an email from me, let me know and I will get you a copy of that video. So make sure that you type in that information accurately. The second Google form that I'm sending out is an anonymous feedback form. I use this for professional growth for myself and to make the PD sessions be better. So while you're filling that out, yes, make sure that you fill it out each time because each session has a different title. So if you've already filled it out once, you can click submit a new submission. Okay, so now I'm going to go through while you all are filling that out, and I'm going to start answering some questions that came trickling in. Zach, we have the semi-pro Google Classroom. We had it earlier this week or last week. my days are running together. But if you go to the agenda, and I'll share it back out again, I have Want to Learn More. Check out the on-demand session. You can click there. I also have a ton of go at your own pace and on-demand sessions listed on the PD matrix. So here's the agenda. Here is, oops, it's not loading. Here's the matrix that you all have probably seen. I've sent it out a few times. I know Jim has too. On the bottom of that, you have what's called on-demand. And on-demand sessions are pre-recorded sessions like what you all are currently in right now. And you can click right here. The video will be embedded on a Google form, and you can fill out that Google form and get PD credit for that. Alicia, I don't know. For enrichment, what was your question? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I believe you were talking about the students automatically being on there and posting to Infinite Campus, and I just wondered if that would work for us as well.
It would. But instead of having each, like being a co-teacher in each class, like I talked about before, you would have like 20 Google Classrooms, which is fine. And it will make your grading be a lot easier. But you can always use that reuse topic post and just post to multiple classes at one time.
So when school starts back, we would just have to ask the homeroom teachers just to add us and then put over in the topic area, music, art, PE.
If that's the way that you want to do it, then yes. But I think that would be easiest, especially since KDE is, like, they have a lot of trainings coming up for this in August, and I've not been trained on it myself, and my Google Classroom looks so different than your all's now, so I don't really have a platform to get in there and play around with it. But if KDE's new integration is not working, I think that would be the easiest.
Okay, because I was kind of fearing having to type in over 400 names.
Right. Yeah, I would just say, hey team, can you add me as a co-teacher? I promise I'm not going to get in there and delete your work or anything like
Right.
that. I know they
Right.
trust you. So.
Well, and I think that would be easier for the parents too to have a one-stop shop.
I do too. It would be very much more organized.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thank you for that great question. So Denise says, if I'm invited to the classroom as a co-teacher, will I be able to see the grades as well? Yes, you will be able to see the grades in there. And Alicia, are you still in here? That question made me think. If your school turns on that Infinite Campus integration part, then we need to make sure that we don't double dip, if that makes sense. Like, you don't want to have their math and science and all of that coming into their gradebook for you too. So I don't know what that Google integration part's going to look like from Infinite Campus, but I'm going to make myself a note to check that once it activates.
Right, because yeah, so if they were doing a grade for music class, it would come where only I could see it, correct?
Yeah.
And that would help too, because sometimes, like, if a student moves on a Thursday and I don't have them in class till the next Tuesday, it's old news that that kid moved. And so this way I would already have it documented. Oh, Johnny is now at Westridge.
Exactly. Emily, so you can totally have your own Google Classroom if you want to. And it's really just a personal preference for the teacher and whatever you want, whatever works best for you in your class. But if your question, you can't picture what it would look like to have a different tab. So like on your classwork part, they would be able to click library and have only links for you if you ever did decide to do that co-teach part. But with the Infinite Campus integration coming out, I wish it was already here so I could tell you all more about it. I just don't know like how that's going to change the gradebook part.
So if they click on library, what would that look like? Would I have like a link to my Seesaw page or I don't know how that would work.
It just brings up all of the assignments that would have that library topic. So if you posted an assignment like saying, hey, here's our Seesaw, make sure that you get on here, they could click this and it would send them to Seesaw.
Okay. And every teacher would just invite me to be a teacher in their class, and then I'd have a link in their classroom?
You would have to make the topic, like whenever you go to Classwork page and you click create and you create that assignment, how we talked about having a topic there.
Yeah.
So you would create library only one time.
Okay.
And then the next time, library would be in that list. So you would be able to find it and click on it. And everything that you post with that topic, whenever students click on that, it brings up everything that has that topic tied to it.
Okay. So how would I, and you probably have already answered this, but if I do that and I'm in another teacher's class, right? When I'm doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it would be like me being in, let me find somebody that's added me to their classroom. It would be like me being in this classroom down here. I'm not the creator of it. I don't have my picture on there, but
okay.
I can go, oh, I'm not a teacher either, but I would go there and I would click create an assignment and I would just create it in that class.
Okay, but then since I'm doing the same activity with all 12, how could I copy that for all other classes without having, I don't know.
You just do whichever one's easiest for you, whichever one makes the most sense for you and your school.
Okay. Like what is there an easy way to copy that for all 12 classes from a teacher's page?
Whenever you create an assignment, if you have that topic in every class, it's gonna fill into that topic.
Okay.
So like if I went into my assignment and I'm doing something about eggs, I can click on 4 and pick the number of classes that I want. And if that topic is the same in every class, it's going to fill into that topic.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Oh, no worries, girl. I had myself muted. No worries. And let me know if you have questions that pop up after, whenever you get in there and you start playing, even if it's before kids or after kids get here, and I'll be happy to help.
Miss Stella, I have a question. When it comes to like us